Welcome into the show. We've got Stonebridge in the house. It's the Retirement Compass radio show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems, and I have Eli Mardock. He's filling in for Tim, and he is in the Lincoln office, studios, should I say, and Jeff Gove, happily appearing in the beautiful new, well, both are fairly new, studios in Kearney. How are you both today?
Doing good. How are you,
well.
Jackie?
Good. Doing well. It's funny that you talk about retirement because this is our show. But I like this little quote, budgeting for retirement because you don't want to be old, tired, and broke. That's a reason to budget.
True.
Nobody wants to face that. I thought we could talk about Chat GPT a little bit, and that's why we got Eli on the show today. He's a bit of an expert. Eli, can I ask you a couple of things, how you feel that Chat GPT works into retirement planning?
Sure. I do think that ChatGPT can be a great resource. It's similar to, like any information source. When you think about how things used to be, I think of the medical industry as well. People used to be completely reliant on going into their doctor, and their doctor had all this information and they had none. And now you have a situation where you can use ChatGPT or other tools, and you can Google your symptoms and go in and kind of have a whole list of things that you could talk about with your doctor. So instead of, we used to have information asymmetry. Now we've got information parity. Everyone's got all the same information. The difference is that, with so much information out there now, you could have so many different conflicting, responses from Google or ChatGPT, these different tools. And so really, I think the role of, a doctor, or even I think in our case with financial professionals, is to really curate that information and be able to apply, well, hey, this is information that applies specifically to you, or this may or may not be accurate. As you know, with ChatGPT, there are plenty of inaccuracies or sources that are incorrect or outdated. And so you have to be really careful there. So, I think that it can be a great tool to sort of dip your toe into a topic, but retirement is so important. It's not something I would leave completely up to AI.
Right. That's a very good perspective. It's no longer an asymmetry of information. That's very clever of you to put that into words. I wish I would have come up with it myself. So I will be using it in the future.
Feel free.
The other thing, though, with that, Eli, I think you're right. I mean, we have to have professionals behind it. I think of the story I heard on the radio about an attorney. I don't know where he was at, but he wrote his whole, closing argument citing case law from ChatGPT. He had ChatGPT write all of it. Turns out that case law didn't exist. It was all made up. Wow. And he got caught. And of course, it was the first time he'd ever done it. Got caught the one time that he did it. But so you have to be careful with the information that it's spitting out. It is good general 30,000 foot view, but I would never, we talk about tax planning a lot on the show. Don't depend on ChatGPT to do your tax planning for you, because you might be greatly disappointed when you get your tax bill.
Mm-hmm. You guys are good at all that, for sure. Strategizing the taxes and getting all the points on the compass worked out for those who are approaching or one step away from retirement. So good place for me to get your number in, 866-295-5146. If you'd like to have a meet and greet, 866-295-5146. Meet and greet, meeting, visit, hello, let's have a cold drink. That's fine too, whatever you're up for. What do you think about ChatGPT for the general public? What do you think is the benefit for the retiree? Is this, helping to keep their studies alive or their mind active?
Yeah, I think that it's really a great tool if you understand or want to understand a concept. So say, for example, you want to understand the basics of Social Security filing, or you want to understand the basics of tax planning. It gets, at least in my experience with it, as you get into more advanced topics, there certainly are a lot of inaccuracies and information can be out of date. And so it's something where I think it can be a great learning tool to wrap your head around something, a big topic, pretty quickly. And so, say, for example, you want to learn about the news today and you could do a live search in ChatGPT or an internet search. It'll really summarize the top stories of the day for you using articles from that day. And it's a really great way to get a really quick, easy to understand viewpoint on sort of what's happening. But, like everything, it's a great tool, and it's only going to get better, I think, in the future. Mm-hmm. But again, it's sort of, autopilot in an airliner is pretty great too. Do I want the pilot to not be there? Definitely not. Or do I want to, am I going to stop going to my doctor because I think I can get all the answers from ChatGPT and self-diagnose? Probably not. Am I going to rely on ChatGPT to give me prescriptions and try to, it's just, you wouldn't want to do that. And I think your financial life is just as important as any of those other things.
That's a really good parallel between financial life and our medical life, because there is a great deal of money. I mean, $500 billion is going to be going into the study of AI predicting disease or treating disease, especially in rural areas, so people could have somebody to talk to about it, but it just might be AI. OpenAI, I think, is the company that owns ChatGPT. But boy, if you look behind the scenes, you can do a search on ChatGPT about all the different AI companies. It's a wide open field that people are investing so many dollars in, and hopefully it will be of benefit to us, more and more. But certainly, you don't want to rely on that.
In our business, we use ChatGPT for some things, like writing an email response or different things, writing policies or something like that. And we use calculators. It's not AI, but it's using a calculator that again can give you that 30,000 foot view, like our stonebridgetaxbill.com, where you can go and plug in your information and see, again, this is high level, how much tax you're going to look at paying over your lifetime. It also gives you a solution of, if you paid all the tax today, here's what you would pay. Now, that's not a recommendation. So again, we don't take that calculator and be like, okay, this is the answer. Let's go. There's got to be work done behind that to fine tune whatever that plan may look like.
Well, these predictors and I guess you'd call them, computer models and things of this nature, that's not new with OpenAI. That's not a new thing since AI. You guys have had computer models for lots of things in your business and in every other business. There's been, computer predictors. What am I trying to call those?
Like modeling.
Yes, modeling and
like, where's the market going? You buy Tesla stock. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Yeah,
sure.
There's a lot of different models, but it's a prediction at the end.
Yes, at the end of the day, it is a prediction. Very interesting stuff. I don't know. Any other comments on the use of ChatGPT for the retiree? Are there limitations? Maybe we should expound a little bit more on the limitations so that folks aren't, scared about it.
It's one thing that I would add, and again, this isn't necessarily ChatGPT, but it's using technology in general to your benefit. Like I talked about Rocket Money on this show before. It's a budgeting app, essentially, is what it is, but it's using technology to monitor all of your transactions. So if there's a credit card that was hacked and some bogus transaction that you don't know what it is, it's going to tell you. But it also will negotiate. Like if you have Dish, for example, and you're paying too much, they will negotiate your Dish bill on your behalf, and then they take a little piece of what they save for you. But it's another way to use it. It's not necessarily AI, but it's using technology to your advantage.
Well, that's interesting. That'd be nice to save a little money here, there, and everywhere. Wow.
And I was not paid to plug
this was not a personal endorsement, Mr. Gove.
No.
Well, that's good to know. Well, I thought the other things that we're going to be talking about today can be, as far as, biological / financial times in our lives. We'll do that on the next segment, when we have those bursts of aging and we have those bursts of financial need. So many of the things that you guys provide there at Stonebridge Wealth Systems. But we'll talk about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. Anything else new and in the news that you want to talk about before we wrap up this segment for the show?
Workshops.
Let's hit the workshops.
Workshops. Eli.
Yes, please.
Tell us what you've been doing in Omaha.
Yeah, we just did 2 workshops at Methodist College in Omaha on Social Security, and those were really great. We had a great response from the folks that attended. And then we also did a second workshop on estate planning with the employees of MUD or MUD, the Metropolitan Utilities District. That was really great. So, yeah, was a lot of fun.
What was the response? How did they, were people's eyes wide open?
Well, Social Security is really complex. There's, this is a rough number. There's probably 21 different rules of code that explain how Social Security works. And then there's a handbook that accompanies that has about 100,000 more sort of rules. And so it's something where it's as complex as our tax code, if not even more. Mm-hmm. And so, I think for a lot of people, even the basic things like, oh, I've heard Social Security is going bankrupt. What am I going to do? That sort of thing. To be able to, I think, really give people clarity on, there's a lot of spin. There's a lot of political things that happen with the media that we, I guess you can use the word consume. I don't really like that word, but the media that we have. But I think to get through and cut through all the noise and actually focus on the facts is really helpful for people.
Mm-hmm. It is. We do consume it, though, don't we?
Yeah, unfortunately. I've never liked the word consumer. It just seems sort of, I don't know, dehumanizing or something. But
I suppose.
Maybe that's just my opinion.
I consume a whole heck of a lot of ice cream, but that's, that's the ice cream's fault.
Yeah. You're an ice cream consumer.
Yeah, that's correct. Oh, I do have a bit about corn, too, coming up on the show today that I bet you guys didn't know about. All right. If you'd like to contact the Retirement Compass radio show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems, I have a phone number and a website. So here we go. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146, or stonebridgeiwm.com. Or Jeff has another one that he really likes. Ready, Jeff?
Yeah, stonebridgetaxbill.com. Yeah, it's a good one.
Is your retirement being eaten up by financial termites like hidden fees, inflation, and avoidable taxes? Call today for a complimentary financial review so we can help you root out these retirement killers.
The show is the Retirement Compass radio show. Jackie Selby on this side with Eli Mardock, and I have Jeff Gove, both of the firm, Stonebridge Wealth Systems. You were just doing some workshop activity, Mr. Eli.
That's correct.
And what did the folks have a good time hearing you talk about Social Security, or even more exciting, estate planning?
As much as you could, I think. So, what was really fun about these workshops is people were really, really engaged. And, we kind of come into a workshop situation with certain things we want to talk about. But what was really nice about it is right from the very beginning, folks were asking a lot of questions. And I love it when there's a certain amount of, I guess, attunement between what we, what the audience wants to hear and what we want to talk about. And so we really were able to focus on what they felt was important. And so, I'd say especially with, questions that came up, of course, when to file, how Social Security works. Those are always big ones. The difference between waiting until you're 70 or 62 and different filing strategies there. Spousal benefits is a big area of confusion for a lot of folks, and even survivor benefits. So it was really helpful to go through a lot of that. So.
Well, good. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the difference between spousal and survival benefits then for the majority? I'm sorry, I'm making an assumption of the ladies listening in the audience.
Sure.
Or the gentlemen, so they can tell their spouse later.
Sure. It's what's interesting is I just read this, 40% of Americans aren't even aware of spousal benefits.
Right.
So if you've been married to someone for 10 years and say you've been divorced for at least 2 and your previous spouse is past the age of 62, you are able to file for spousal benefits. And so it's not something that affects their Social Security. That's a big misconception as well. So you're not having to contact them or really ask their permission. It's something that you are entitled to, having been married to them for 10 years. And so all you need to do is contact the Social Security office. You can also do it via their website and go ahead and file for or apply for that benefit. And you can see what you're going to get. It's something where a lot of people just don't do it because they're not aware of it. And if you think about, I can think of one client example where there was a gal I met with who could have filed for that and hadn't, and she was making maybe $800 to $900 from Social Security. With her benefit, we later found out she would have gotten about and she started to get about $1,500 a month. So it really, when you think about that long term over a 25-year retirement, that's a massive increase in her Social Security benefit. So these things really have real consequences. And so I always encourage folks, if you have questions about it, certainly sit down, talk to a fiduciary, someone who's in your corner, who's going to be able to look at this and apply it to your situation.
And here's that number for the fiduciaries, 866-295-5146 to reach Stonebridge, 866-295-5146. A very experienced team of advisors. I can't call you anything but that. Nice fellows. Jeff, what do you think is the most common thing people want to know about Social Security?
Well, I guess to expand a little bit, and I'll answer your question, but to expand on what Eli was saying a little bit, when you compare that to survivor's benefits, so spousal benefits obviously are both alive. Spousal benefit or survivor benefits, one of you is gone. So spousal benefits is half. Survivor benefits is full. So tell you a quick story. We were doing this Social Security workshop in Grand Island, and there was a lady on the front row, and she said she'd been married for over 10 years and she's divorced. And she said, "So you're saying if my ex-husband is alive, I get half, but if he's gone, I get the whole thing?" And it got really uncomfortable. Everybody was like, "Whoa, she just said what nobody had the guts to say." So the guys or girls, the government's kind of put a bullseye on your back if you're divorced, because they're going to get a raise in their Social Security. But what it all comes down to with Social Security is, for a lot of our listeners, a lot of the people out there, it's when you look at how much money you're going to get over your lifetime, there's a high probability that's one of your biggest assets. We run a Social Security analysis, which we have a nice report that can help you determine when should I draw Social Security, how should I draw Social Security, because there are different, for some people, there's different options. And you look at how much you're getting over your lifetime, a lot of times we're talking millions of dollars. It's not a few thousand, it's millions, depending on how long you live. So that's something I definitely call in. If you're at that point where you're like, man, I'm 62, do I draw Social Security now? I'm going to take it while I can, or should I wait? That would definitely be a reason to give us a call. Come in, it's complimentary. We would put together a Social Security analysis for you and get you on your way.
I love it. Complimentary is always nice. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Let me ask you, what would be the detriment of Social Security claiming maybe too soon and your other investments? If there's a couple, one wants to take it at 62 because she's going to retire, and maybe the husband is going to work past his full retirement age. Is there any detriment to the income from the investments and so forth going to affect her Social Security, maybe now or when she turns 65?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if she's planning on collecting her spousal benefit, there's something to be aware of. So if she does, say, for example, we've got a couple, and either member of the couple could be the higher earner here. But for example, if the plan is to have the higher earner delay their benefits so that they have a higher benefit. And there's definitely, this is a great strategy overall, because from a spousal planning standpoint, let's say, not trying to be sexist here in any way, let's just say that the higher earner was, in this case, the male, right, or the man. So if he's going to delay his benefits, that's an excellent spousal plan, because as a survivor, statistically, women will outlive men. So if she is the spouse that ends up living longer there, her survivor benefit, she's going to get the higher of the two. So it's a really good spousal plan to protect your spouse and delay that higher one. But for her own benefit, if she were to take that at 62, she receives a 35% cut overall just in that first year. And so every year it goes up a little bit more. It's 30% if she would do it at 63. It's 25% at 64, and so on. But if she waited until 67 at full retirement age, she then is going to get her full benefit, or half of her husband's. That's the way that would work. But if he had claimed, right? But if the goal is to let his continue to grow, waiting beyond 67 makes zero difference because it's the same at that point. It doesn't grow at 8% like it would if you were just looking at your own benefit there. And so for spousal, 67 and then waiting for her spouse would be the way to go. If she waited till 68, 69, it doesn't change her spousal benefit at all.
Mm-hmm. So how important is it to have the Social Security plan part of the entire retirement plan?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Jackie. That is exactly, and that's what I want to say. That's exactly why we developed the Retirement Compass, because everybody's situation is different. I personally, I want you to draw Social Security as early as you can, as long as it's not going to, provide a threat that you're going to run out of money in the future. So the first step in that Retirement Compass is the income plan. So we're looking at, what are your income sources? How much is your Social Security? Do you have a pension? Are you going to work part-time for a few years? What does all of that look like? Okay. Then we look at your investment plan. We're going to invest the money in order to help you meet your income goals. If you've got, let's say you're a farmer and you're going to have land rent that will cover all of your expenses. Well, why would we wait until 70 to draw Social Security if that's the cherry on top, really? It's extra income. There's probably no reason to do that. So again, everybody's situation is different, but that's why we start with the income plan, develop a plan of how are you going to get the income that you need, Social Security, pension, whatever it is. Then we invest money. Then we're looking at taxes. Okay, now we have your income plan done. It better be tax efficient, right? And then we look at healthcare. We want to protect your assets. And then the last thing is legacy planning. So how do you get everything that you worked hard for? If you have a farm that, maybe you have 3 kids and a son is farming and the other 2 daughters are in other states and have no interest in the farm. How do we get that to the son in the most efficient way possible and keep that farm in the family? And that's what we do in the legacy plan. They all work hand in hand. Part of that, a big part, is your Social Security plan.
Okay. Because if that isn't included, then it could foul up one of the other pieces of it.
Right.
Or not foul it up, but, put you at a disadvantage. Maybe you would be getting less money or at a higher tax.
Or, I had a gentleman come in and I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again, came in on a Thursday and said, I'm retiring Tuesday.
Oh, boy.
And I'm ready for a plan. If you could give us more of a heads up, that'd be great. But he was 62 years old. He had already filed for Social Security.
Oh, heck.
The problem was his Social Security at 62 is going to be $1,500 a month for the rest of his life. He'll get cost of living adjustments, but it's, for general purposes, we're looking at $1,500. His expenses are $5,000 a month.
Oh.
And he had less than $100,000 saved for retirement. So when you do the math, he was of the mind, I want to retire and I'm going to take my Social Security when I can get it. Well, we are going to be honest with you and tell you, like for him, I told him, no, you can't do that. You need to cancel your Social Security. You have one opportunity to do that. It has to be within the first year. Mm-hmm. So we stopped that. So now it's still growing.
Good.
And he's working and his wife is working still. So they're okay and they're going to be okay. But if he would have just went with that, I'm going to take it while I can get it, he would have been working for the rest of his life.
Oh, gosh. 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge, 866-295-5146. Get all the advantages. Get all the information.
As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house to a better career to a better life for our children and grandchildren. Better has become the American way. When it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? Does it mean more income, a flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a financial plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
Retirement Compass Radio Show, and I have Jeff and Eli. Now, Tim is gosh knows where, off probably at some Ed Slott, convention or something, meeting with
and
other.
Eli's going to be more of a regular.
Good.
with us, every couple weeks.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
I told him the first time we recorded with him.
It's not a replacement, Jackie. Come on.
No, I'm just saying
Tim.
it's a great.
Possible.
I like his perspective. It's very interesting.
Yeah, he's good.
Very interesting. I found out something that all of our farmers probably already know, but for we who are not farmers, we can add this to our dictionary. Evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration, big word. This is a term for the water that evaporates from the corn, which is at its peak pretty much now, right? This is a total of billions of gallons of water evaporating from the corn being pumped into the air right now. So if you feel extra humid, that's why.
Oh, it's humid.
That's why. It's from the corn.
Our office this morning, Jackie, was like 80% humidity. There was clouds forming in the ceiling, and it was about to
talk. Oh my goodness! How about that?
I had no idea it was coming from the corn, though.
It is evapotranspiration. Like
Eli, did you know that?
That is a new term to me. I have to confess.
Well, let's talk to our ag clients and to our listeners that listen so faithfully. How important is it for our farmers to have an estate plan put together long before something is needed, Jeff?
Well, I think any plan, farmers, anybody.
Of course, yes.
I mean, we obviously need a plan before something happens. When you talk about long-term care insurance, I was talking to a couple earlier this week that, you can always tell when something's wrong or something just happened because someone shows up at your office and says, I want to buy long-term care insurance. It's like, oh boy, what happened?
What happened?
You just at the doctor, you've got Alzheimer's or dementia or something happened because no one actively pursues long-term care insurance. So you don't want to wait because if you were in that situation, you're not getting long-term care insurance. They're not, when the house is on fire, you can't insure the house.
Okay.
So that's not going to be an option. But having an estate plan, especially if speaking to our ag clients, you have this family farm that's been in the family for generations. It's worth taking the time to figure out how do you get that to the next generation, whatever that looks like for you, in the most efficient way possible. A lot of times people will come in and they'll say, we've got this farm that's paid off. Again, I've got a son that helps on the farm. He's invested some of his own money, his own resources into the farm to develop land. We bought a pivot and put that on. So we increased the value of the land. But now I've split everything evenly with my 3 kids, and it doesn't feel fair. Or the son probably doesn't think that feels fair because he invested his own money and increased the value for all of them. So he thinks maybe he should get a little bit more. But the other side is, okay, so son is going to buy out sisters in this case because sisters don't want to own the farm. They want cash. Well, we have a paid off farm. So do we want to leave a situation where now the son has to go borrow a lot of money to buy the land from his siblings? That's an option. You could do that at much higher interest rates. Maybe you're looking at 7%. And it's really tough to cash flow, as our listeners know, to cash flow those loans right now. Or an alternative would be son buys life insurance on mom and dad, enough cash or death benefit there that's tax-free death benefit that would provide the funds to purchase the land from siblings. So now it's still a paid off farm. You paid much less. When you look at the premiums, we're leveraging those premiums. If you paid, let's say you paid $200,000 over the years in premium and you got $2 million in death benefit, that's a really good investment. And I'm just throwing numbers out. It's not exact numbers, but it definitely makes sense. But the hang up seems to be, well, I'm such and such age. I don't have any debt. I don't need life insurance.
Boy. And
I would agree. You don't need life insurance, but you get to a point where it becomes a want. Like I want life insurance because, again, I'm going to leverage these dollars to help me with that. That's going to happen in the future. So yeah, having a plan for that is really important. And then making sure all your estate plan documents are in order.
And to get this done, just use this number to call Stonebridge, 866-295-5146. 866-295-5146.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Muhammad Ali said, "Age is whatever you think. You're as old as you think you are." I guess that's true, but sometimes there's a little creak in the shoulder or the hips or something like that. Welcome back to the show, Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge. Look who I have. Eli Mardock in the Lincoln office and Jeff Gove in the beautiful spanking brand new Kearney office. Studio. Well, office and studio.
Yep. Both.
It's beautiful. I'm so happy for you guys putting some broadcast facilities together. It's really, really shows your commitment to the show, I guess.
Now we're waiting for your commitment, Jackie. When are you getting your van?
I know. I want to get a little broadcast van and go all around the country.
Let's go.
Good idea.
My goodness sakes. It's those things. I was thinking we could talk a little bit about life insurance, and don't anybody tune away, because I want to make a couple of points about the importance of having some, especially if you have kids. You have kids at home and you're the breadwinner and so on and so on. It should be maybe part of your plan, instead of getting the brand new van or things that are pressing on your, I want to keep up with the Joneses. But you think about the person who's depending on you, and there's different choices. That life insurance has come a long way. Don't you think, Jeff Gove?
Life insurance has come a long way. Yeah, and there's a lot of different purposes for life insurance.
Okay.
These days. Term insurance. Yeah, that's covering a specific need. So if you're younger and you haven't saved a lot for retirement yet, let's say you're 25, married, couple kids or one kid, your biggest asset is your income. So we have to insure that income. So if something happened to you, something happens, you're in a car accident, you're killed, take care of your wife and your child that are at home. And I recommend, this is very loose, but 10 times your income is kind of a good start, because that gives your spouse time to, if they have to go back to school, if they, need to relocate or whatever the case might be, that gives them the money to do that. So term insurance is definitely, there's definitely a place for that. Eli, what other types of insurance are there?
Yes. Can you expand a little bit more on different kinds of, because this is not, I feel like life insurance is something that we used to hear about from the 30s or something, and there was only one kind, and you go to your life insurance salesman and he puts a rubber stamp on your application, but it's just not so.
No, and definitely not. And, definitely I think you should meet with a fiduciary when discussing life insurance. I'm not, that would be my take, I guess. But life insurance, other types, it really dates back to, think of the Carnegies and the Rockefellers. And these were really, they created a tax code 7702, but that really was designed for them to be able to pass on money tax-free to the next generation, and a place to park money and let it grow at reasonable rates so that they could then pull out and use tax-free. And so there's a lot of interesting stories about how people have used life insurance to, you hear people say, well, I'll create my own bank. That's been done. Walt Disney couldn't find anyone to help him build Disneyland. So he cashed in a ton of cash value life insurance, or whole life, and financed the park himself. And so that's an interesting case. McDonald's as well. The guy that bought it from the two brothers who founded it used cash value from his life insurance to do that.
Wow.
And so, there's certainly applications like that. Those are kind of older examples. But what we see more these days is, if you're you've done term and you've got a good, like Jeff talked about, you've got income replacement, whatever, if you have debt, you're able to pay that off if you were to pass away and make sure your family's taken care of. But really that next step is, if you're maxing out your retirement accounts, you've got Roths, you're sort of, maybe up to the third or fourth rung of the ladder of places where you can start to invest. Life insurance, universal life is one we use, or whole life would be another one that's similar in that you can, your first thing is a death benefit, and it's going to last, term will expire. Whole life or universal index life would last the rest of your life. But it's also going to grow a cash value, whether that's just from dividend payments within whole life, or whether it's going to be linked to a market linked index within life insurance. It's principal protected, so you've got access to growth within it, but you're not going to lose value when the market goes down. So it's a source potentially of tax-free retirement income, which can be great if you needed it later. And then the last part, and we're seeing this as a newer tool, is that death benefit. If you have a rider that could be linked to ADLs, or those are activities of daily living or confinement, you could actually access the death benefit as a living benefit and use it to pay for long-term care. And I really love this tool because traditional long-term care, if you don't use it, you lose that premium. Whereas this, no one wants to use long-term care, right? So with something like this, if you don't need long-term care, your family just gets a tax-free death benefit, which is great. And if you do need it, then it's not your assets, it's not your retirement accounts, it's not your home that's going to pay for that. It's the life insurance death benefit. And so it's there as this extra sort of bucket of money to help you pay for any potential long-term care needs.
That's really nice. If you want to talk to a fiduciary about this new tool that Eli mentioned, give a call, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. So you're saying you use the word bank, so it's a savings vehicle. Would you call it that?
Definitely. And I say bank because you have to take out a policy loan to get that out. So you're not
a loan. Okay.
Absolutely. But most policies, either will have very, very low interest rates or no interest rates on that. And that's what makes it tax-free, in that a loan is not taxable. So you're able to access the cash value with no tax.
The other thing with those loans is if you have the type of policy that has participating loans, what that means is you can borrow money from your policy and use it to, if you're buying a rental, let's say. So now you're earning money on that money that you borrowed by buying the rental, but the money that you took out, that loan is still earning interest. So you're paying some interest, but it's also earning interest. It's a participating loan. So it's participating in dividends or interest in, the S&P 500 or whatever it might be. So that's, not another vehicle I know that you can do that, where you're borrowing the money and it's still invested for you.
That's interesting.
And you don't have to pay it back. That's the thing too. You can pay that back, but if you don't, it's just coming out of the death benefit. So you have a lot of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. All those things are interesting, and maybe the public doesn't know about them. I think that's why we're talking about them. Hey, by the way, the YouTube channel is up and running. For those who are listening to the radio show and you want to see what these fellows really look like, you can check out or get more information.
You don't want to. I'll let you know.
On YouTube, but do subscribe, as they say, please subscribe. It's on YouTube. It is Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And we're going to do a whole lot more with the page and do smaller little segments of wisdom coming out of these experienced advisors' mouths. Jeff's like, oh, goodness. What were you going to say, Jeff?
Well, I was going to say, if you go to our page and see that we have 17 followers, it's because we just started it. So don't judge.
Yeah, no, we just started. Yeah.
And then Jackie promised after this episode, so if you're listening and you have her back, she promised that we'd have 1,000 subscribers by the end of this show. So
there is some useful stuff. And especially if you hear something and then you say to your spouse or to your brothers or something, seriously, here's the information. You can go watch this again. I didn't just make it up. They were talking about life insurance.
Yeah.
Or get yourself an appointment. Use the 866 number, 866-295-5146. All right. So how about the 60-year-old? If we have a little bit more of a ramp time, Mr. Gove, instead of just coming to you on the day we want to retire, if the 55 to 60-year-old person comes to you for their retirement plan, there's a little bit more time to pivot and to understand what is going to be the best course of action to get you to and through your retirement in a comfortable fashion. What exactly would you tell them to do or advise them to do?
Definitely now's the time to get started on a plan, because there are some pieces of the plan that are more time sensitive than others.
Okay.
When we talk about tax planning, if we're doing Roth conversions, there is a timeliness of that, because number one, we don't know what tax rates are going to do. I think we're probably good for 3 years, maybe. But who knows in the future? I have a good feeling that they're going up. Well, I don't know if it's a good feeling, but I have a feeling that they're going up when you look at national debt. But so now is the time, if we're doing tax planning, to get to work on that. When we do that, we're seeing people save potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes over their lifetime, that instead of paying that in taxes, now it's going to your kids, or now it's sending you on vacation, or now it's buying the home in Arizona or in Florida that you wanted to have. So making those plans now helps you create that plan, your dream retirement that you wanted in the future.
And it's just so much dreaming and so much fun, isn't it, to think that you don't have to do your 9 to 5. And if you have an exit date, say you start 5 years early, and you know that on this date you want to be in your new RV and going across the country. Isn't it Tim's parents who go on these bus trips to go all over the place and look at interesting points?
Yeah, I think they do some bus trips.
Yeah, that's fun. Whatever that might be. But if you need to do some adjustments in between, that's why you want to start early. Because with some meetings with you and ongoing communication with you and your office, then folks can call and say, okay, we just got an inheritance. Look at this. We got a boon. Maybe we can we retire earlier? Because there is going to be a big $1 trillion transfer. How many trillions of dollars are being held by baby boomers and going to be passed down to, across to the spouse and then down to the next generation? So 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. This is Retirement Compass Radio Show. Be right back.
Did you ever think your retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are like a partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars, and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own numbers while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability could be, scan the QR code or go to stonebridgetaxbill.com.
The Stonebridge Mailbag. You guys are the experts, and we have questions from those who listen to us on the radio and who watch on YouTube. How exciting is this?
Yeah, these will be good scenarios.
Good scenarios, yes, indeed. We have some scenarios from our audience, and one of those is someone with a large estate trying to decide whether to use a revocable or irrevocable trust to pass down their assets. They're worried about control and flexibility, but they also want to minimize estate taxes. Ooh, this is good. What factors would guide their choice? Irrevocable or revocable trust? You're on, Jeff.
So, when you use the word flexibility, that word definitely sticks out to me, because when we're talking about something that's revocable or irrevocable says no flexibility. Revocable says, okay, I can make changes. So obviously everybody's case is different. You definitely need to meet with an attorney. I'm not an attorney, but outside looking in, the revocable trust gives you that flexibility. You can put things in, you can take things out. But I think the most important thing, before you get there is having that estate plan. And some of it could be handled by simple beneficiary designations. So Even your bank accounts, you can name a beneficiary on your savings account, and then it avoids probate. So you don't have to pay an attorney on the back end. Your kids don't, to probate that. So that could be a really good option. A downside of an irrevocable trust for our farming listeners is if you put your money or your land in an irrevocable trust, you pass away, it goes to your kids. They don't get a step up in cost basis. So if they ever wanted to sell that ground, their cost basis is the same as what you bought it for. Oh. So that could be a real negative for doing that. So just make sure you have all of the information before you make a significant decision like that. And we want to look at, okay, is there something simple that I can do to get this done? So let's start there, beneficiary designations. Then the nice thing about an irrevocable trust or a revocable trust, let's talk about a revocable trust, I guess, first.
Sure. Is
if you want to be able to, let's say, control it from the grave. So you want to say, if I die, we use farm ground, the two siblings want to sell, son has first rights of refusal to buy at this price. Like, you can name all of the things. These are reasons you could take it out. There's a lot of things you could do there, but that's the benefit of a trust. If you aren't worried about that, you just want your stuff to go to your kids, then beneficiary designations is the first step, and then go forward from there.
Mm-hmm. This is good information to have. And if you want to consult with Stonebridge and talk about your estate plan to do with your entire retirement plan, because they do go hand in hand. Estate planning is part of retirement planning, and it's important to have those I's dotted and T's crossed. Is that it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so use the number to get a sit down and a consultation, 866-295-5146. I almost gave you a different phone number. 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge. Or the website, you could go there too, stonebridgeiwm.com. Good stuff on estate planning. All right, I have a 50-year-old entrepreneur considering $1 million whole life policy to cover both their family and future estate needs, estate taxes. They want to build cash value as a financial asset, but they're unsure about how premiums and cash value growth compare to other investments. All right, Eli.
Yeah, so great question. So with whole life, really the internal rate of return after fees is usually 3 to 5% for most products there. So it's going to be different than an investment. And usually because when you're taking out a whole life policy like that, a lot of the initial premium is going towards the death benefit that's provided. It's a slow growth investment tool. If someone's eager to see a return within the next 1 to 3 years, I think that's going to be a pretty tough thing, because it's more expensive. There's premium, of course, that goes into whole life, and it's going to be slower growth. But in years, let's say 15 to 20, you really start to see things compound. And that's where I'd say it's a medium to a long-term financial tool for most folks. And you compare that to investments, for example, the S&P, has an average over the last 98 years, a 10% average return. Maybe 6 to 8% annually in a balanced portfolio. But, I think for this particular person, I would say it would make sense for them to proceed with whole life if they're already maximizing their tax advantage accounts, like Roth accounts. If they have, if estate concerns or something that, if that justifies the insurance need. If they're risk adverse and they want something a little less up and down than the market, for example, and they're a disciplined saver who can consistently pay those premiums, they have the extra cash flow to do that, and they're patient. I think it's a really good fit for them there. Go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry, I thought you were done, Eli.
No, go ahead.
One other thing that I was just thinking about, I had a client of mine come in this week, and it's not a whole life policy, it's a universal life. And his cash value is $40,000 and the death benefit's $50,000. So I guess I would ask this individual, why do we want to build cash value? Like, do we have a plan to use that cash value? Because in my client's situation, if he dies, the death benefit is $50,000. So as he grows his cash value, he's really lowering the liability of the insurance company because they're on the hook for $10,000. They're going to give him, his beneficiaries, $40,000 of his own money plus $10,000 to get into his death benefit. So if you're trying to grow cash value, there has to be a purpose behind it. Yeah. So what we did for that individual, because that death benefit's not going to grow, he actually moved it to an annuity that had a bonus. So that $40,000 was $48,000 right out of the gate. So it's a little short of his death benefit, but it's going to grow every year going forward, hopefully. If the market goes up, it goes up. If the market goes down, it stays even. It's an index annuity. So if he lives, longer than 2 years and the market goes up for 2 years, he's going to have more death benefit in the annuity than he did in life insurance. Or another example would be if he needed long-term care. He doesn't in his situation. He's already got it. But if he needed it, you could take that $40,000 and use that as a down payment on a long-term care policy, a life with long-term care. So it's repurposing those life insurance assets that, if that cash value is getting close, I would say if it's over half of the death benefit, you probably should do something, because especially if you're paying premiums, you could probably move that cash value to a new policy and not have to pay any premium anymore and have the same or more death benefit. So so make sure you have a plan for cash value, I guess is my point, because if it's just to grow it just because I want to have cash value, most policies, that's not really a benefit. It's not going to help you.
866-295-5146. 866-295-5146. That's a good point. We don't have the rest of the details. Here's one, a 58-year-old scenario with a vacation home. Now, he's thinking of renting it out to offset expenses on that home. He's concerned about rental income taxes and property management costs. What should he know about the financial and tax implications of turning the vacation home into a rental?
So if you have a vacation home like that and you turn it into a rental, keep in mind a rental is an investment asset. So if you're making income from that piece of real estate and you go to sell it, you're going to pay long-term capital gains. I've had that come up several times with maybe a mom died. We inherited the house. We're going to rent it out for a while, rent it out for a year, and then we sell it. Because you rented it out, it's now an investment property that you're going to have to pay capital gains if you made money on it. If you would have just sold it, you would have not paid any long-term capital gains. Or if you had a gal that lived here in Kearney, she moved down to Kansas, she kept her house here, not sure what she wanted to do. Well, she rented it out for like 6 months and then decided to sell it to the people she was renting it to. So she had that house for years. I think she had like $200,000 in gains in there that now became taxable because it was a rental and not a primary residence. So those are all things that you have to consider. Filing taxes in different states, because if it's a vacation home in a different state, that can create complications. Lots of things to consider on that.
Very good. This is the reason that you want to talk to some professionals and fiduciary, preferably, and that is Stonebridge, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Now, I find myself in a position here, if I give you another question, we're going to go over time. So any interesting stories that you guys have from this past week, interesting client situations where you thought, man, we need to talk about this on the radio show. Eli, because you had a whole week of ramp up.
Yeah, I did encounter a gentleman after one of our meetings or after the workshops that came in, and I was, it's typical of what we see sometimes. He's someone that hasn't had the opportunity to do a lot of retirement savings and didn't have a lot in 401ks, but really his main asset was his house. And I think it just really, to me, struck me as how important it is to make sure you've got someone who's really truly in your corner and looking out for your best interest first rather than their own. And so, he's got a home maybe worth $250,000 and not a lot of other assets, but he visited, he was concerned about avoiding probate, talked to an attorney, and he has a trust now for that home, right, which probably cost him $3,000 to $4,000, maybe less. It just depends. But in Nebraska now we have something called a TOD deed, which is simply a 4-page document. And if you want to, a trust can be very useful for certain reasons. But for most people, if the goal is just to avoid your home going into probate, I really encourage people to look into a TOD deed. You just name the beneficiaries for your home. Then when you pass away, they take a death certificate to the Register of Deeds. And that's an instant transfer of property. And it doesn't cost you $3,000 to $4,000. It achieves essentially the same thing as a trust. And it's going to cost you $20 to $25 to file and whatever the notary costs. So again, just, get a second opinion, maybe. That's what I'd say there.
That's a good idea. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. See you next week.
See ya.
Thank you.